Hey folks, welcome back. My name is Krishna. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm sorry for my absence. I've had to deal with 2 hurricanes and the flu. But the hurricanes are past. We were fortunate that nothing really happened too bad with us. We just lost internet. But shortly after the hurricanes passed, I just came down with a terrible flu, and I've been bedridden for like the last 5 days. This is the first day that I'm actually kind of feeling somewhat normal. So besides that, in this video, we're going to take a look at how you can utilize glyphs to create some really interesting looking vehicles and environments. So what is a glyph? So whenever we're looking at any kind of letter form, any kind of character, we have something that is referred to as a glyph. Now, I'm going to pick a glyph that is going to be a little bit unusual for my starting point. If we go up to Window and choose Glyphs, you'll see that every font has its own set of characters. These are all the glyphs associated with that particular character. Let me scroll up here. All of these are in alphabetical order. And we can pick glyphs that are going to be very interesting and unusual. Let's see, this one looks really interesting. So if you want the glyph, you just have to double click on it with the type tool active, and you've got a glyph. Now, I like to pick glyphs that are interesting in terms of shape, but not unusual, not usually recognizable. Like this could look like a letter Y, but it has these 2 lines through it, so it kind of gives it a different meaning. You can see that there are some other characters here that are just unusual. They look cool, and you can certainly try those out. So I'm going to just show you an example of how this approach can work for you if you're feeling creatively in need of some inspiration. So this glyph is a typeface. I first need to go ahead and right-click and convert this into a shape by rasterizing it. And then from there, I can rotate the shape, and that looks interesting. I might be able to do something with that. And I'm going to also right-click and choose Warp. This gives me the ability now to really go crazy with this shape. So under the Warp menu, you have these different warp options here. And they have a little pictogram that depicts the type of warp that you can, convey. So like if I do shell upper, I've got this really neat looking shape. If I go with fisheye, I have something that is somewhat bulgy. It's not super exciting to me, honestly. But let's do flag. That looks kind of crazy. I'll do one more here. And we'll do wave. That has some merit. So this right here now is a good starting point for generating some ideas. I can use the shape as is, or I can continue to manipulate it. So this one I'm going to use the perspective tool. So I'll use the perspective tool. I'm going to pull out one of the corners here. And already I'm kind of envisioning this as some kind of a train, some kind of a bullet train, or some kind of futuristic looking armored vehicle. It has a lot of like sharp edges to it. It looks really, really interesting. So what I'll do here is I'll first control click on the thumbnail for the shape. I'll then make a brand new layer. And if I go up to edit, I'm going to choose stroke so I can capture the outline of this glyph. So I have this outline as follows. Then I can hit Command J to make a copy of it. Command T. I'm going to move this copy over, and I'm going to shrink it just a little bit. So why did I do that? Well, if you remember from previous lessons, we've got our box, right? And they're essentially 2 trapezoidal shapes. Well, if you can visualize that this shape is actually inside a box, and this connection here between the 2 shapes is another trapezoid, we're essentially creating something that has 2-point perspective. So let's elaborate on that. We can connect these lines. I'm doing this on its own layer. And I can connect and match each corner. But you're going to see that this part is actually not going to be visible when I'm done with it. So I've got this like thick, chunky object here of some type. And what I can do now is I can merge all of those layers together. I can potentially get rid of all of this. And now the fun can begin. I can actually go ahead and maybe, I don't know, throw some tank treads on here. And give this a little bit of, menace. I'm going to just draw through the form here. And maybe we'll see some of that tread come back up and out. There's little maybe inlets that conceal the rest of the tread because it's heavily armored. We might have some kind of a window where scouts can kind of look behind and see if there's any approaching attacker. And I'll just use my black fills here. We can create some wires or tubes, some other little gears and cogs. I can fill that in with some black. And already I'm getting something that I would have never come up with on my own. This is like a really interesting looking shape. And that's what makes this really fun. You can come up with ideas that you would have never come up with before. Like I didn't know that I was going to be drawing a tank or some kind of a space vehicle. In fact, this particular shape was completely just picked at random when I hit the record button for this video. So I really didn't know what I was going to draw. But already I've come up with something that I think has some potential, right? So I'll fill this in with black fills as well. And now we've got this really solid looking structure. Maybe there's a little dome on top. Maybe we have some firepower on the opposite side. Maybe there's some windows on the side where we can see people that are kind of like looking outside. Maybe it's like this kind of reminds me of the Star Wars Jawa vehicle. Kind of like really big, menacing, and chonky. And I think it also had treads too, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. I haven't watched my Star Wars stuff in a while, but I seem to recall that the Jawas had something like this. And so all that's left for me to do is add some kind of environment and start to, add some details to this. I can always come back in too and carve out of the shape to make it look more interesting. And this is where my lasso tools can be really, really handy. So I'll just maybe cut this. Maybe there's another little area where people are kind of checking things out. There's like a little back alley area here where people can kind of look and see what's going on. So this gives us a sense of scale. Like this is a massive structure, right? We can also add some hint of material. You know, maybe this has seen some battle damage. You know, I always like to think about my vehicles as having some form of character as well. Like, they should tell us a story. Like, when you look at a rusty out car in the middle of the woods, there's a story. Like, how did that car get there, right? So it's the same thing with when you're drawing vehicles. So this is just one glyph. I'm obviously not going to show you every single glyph, but it's something that I think can be a good catalyst for your own creativity. Let me know if you find some value in this video, and let me know if you have any follow-up. As always, thanks for watching the video, and thanks for your patience. I want to thank all of you for bringing us over to almost 2,500 subscribers, something like that, maybe a little bit more than that. So thank you for subscribing to the channel. Please give it a thumbs up so more folks can find it. And as always, thanks for watching, and see ya in the next one. Peace.